Imagine a world where the Axis powers won World War II. A world in which history took a completely different turn. Welcome to an alternate reality where the course of events diverged dramatically. What if Britain surrendered early? What if the United States never entered the war? Let's dive into this fascinating at the same time terrifying alternate history. 1933, the year that changed everything. On the 30th of January, Adolf Hitler assumes the office of Chancellor of Germany. The Weimar Republic, already weakened by economic crisis and political instability, collapses under pressure of the National Socialists. Democracy is dead. In its place rises a dictatorship that is determined to reshape the world. Iron Fist, the Nazi regime begins to mold German society. Other parties are crushed. The media is brought into line. The systematic persecution of Jews and political opponents begins. Germany is now on the path to becoming a totalitarian dictatorship. 1935. A referendum is held in the Saar region, with 90% voting to join the German Reich. This was a huge success for Nazi propaganda. In 1936, Hitler feels confident enough to take the first major step. On March 7, German troops march into the demilitarized Rhineland, a clear violation of the Treaty of Versailles. The international community's reaction? Nothing, but weak protest and empty words. The path for the Third Reich's expansion is now clear. And while the world attends the 1936 Olympics in Berlin, the Nazi regime puts on its best face. The games become a propaganda showcase. Germany presents itself as a strong united nation, open to the world. 1938, a year of great power dreams. Hitler turns and gazes southwards. On March 12, German troops cross the border into Austria, but without a single shot, the Führer's homeland falls to the Third Reich. The so-called Anschluss is completed, and Austria becomes part of Greater Germany. Later that year, Europe once again yields to Hitler's demands when the Munich Agreement is signed. Britain and France agree to the annexation of the Sudetenland, hoping to preserve peace. Neville Chamberlain returns to London with the famous piece of paper in hand, convincing he had secured peace for our time. But this peace is an illusion that will soon shatter. Even Hungary and Poland take advantage of this agreement, leaving behind a weakened state destined for failure. 1939, the year the world finally stares into the black. On March 15, German troops march into Prague, ending Czechoslovakia's independence. The Protectorate of Bohemia and Moravia is established and integrated into the Reich. What remains is a Slovak puppet state, further dismissed by territorial losses to Hungary. It's a lost draw. Britain and France realize that Hitler's appetite for expansion knows no bounds. On the 23rd of August, the next move follows, the so-called Hitler-Stalin Pact, an aggression pact between the arch-enemies Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union. Secretly, the two powers agree on the vision of Europe. Germany receives Lithuania and the western part of Poland, while the Soviet Union takes the remaining Baltic states, Finland, Bessarabia and the eastern half of Poland. However, the original plan was never implemented, but more on that later. On September 1st, Germany invades Poland. The Wehrmacht sweeps through the country with a brutal blitzkrieg tactic. 2 days later, Britain and France declare war on Germany. But it's too late. There is no hope in securing Poland's independence. The country is slowly ground down from three sides, eventually leading to complete occupation of the country. It is fully divided between Germany and the Soviet Union, with Slovakia and Lithuania also receiving smaller border regions. However, these two countries are nothing more than puppet states of the two major nations. Despite Germany and the Soviet Union's rapid occupation of Poland, surprisingly little happened on the Western Front. Initially, the so-called phony war begins. A strange phase of the war lasting from October 1939 to May 1914. While French and British troops dig along the Maginot Line, the German troops wait the Siegfried Line, order to attack. At the same time, the Soviet Union invades Finland, initially expecting it to fall within a few weeks. However, the world is told otherwise. Finland shows remarkable resilience, defending its independence. The previously thought to be invincible Soviet Union reveals its further weaknesses. The German military leadership, emboldened by this, believes that this country will not pose a significant challenge in the future. In April 1914, Operation Gertrude sees German troops occupy Denmark and Norway. The invasion is rapid action that overwhelms both Danish and Norwegian defenses. While Denmark falls with little resistance, Norway puts up a fierce fight. But after a time, they fall too. The occupation of these countries secures strategic advantages for the German Empire, including control over crucial sea routes and access to resources vital for the ongoing war. The Allies attempt to secure the strategically important countries, but they failed. On May 10, 1914, the calm time on the Western Front ends abruptly. The Western campaign begins, and the German Wehrmacht unleashes its blitzkrieg tactics once again, this time against France, Belgium, Luxembourg, and the Netherlands. In a masterfully coordinated attack, German tank divisions break through the supposedly impenetrable Ardennes, bypassing the Allied fortified Maginot Line. The Allies, who have concentrated their defenses in the north, are completely cut off guard. The Netherlands capitulated after only 5 days, followed shortly by Belgium. Allied forces stationed in Belgium are cut off and pushed towards the coast. What followed is a desperate evacuation from Dunkirk, where the British managed to save most of their army, but are forced to leave all their heavy equipment behind. While the British experience the miracle of Dunkirk, the French army collapses under the weight of the German onslaught. On June 14, the Wehrmacht marches into Paris. The City of Light falls with little resistance. France surrenders on the 22nd of June 1914 and is divided into occupied zone in the north and a German-controlled Vichy state in the south. This new state initially retains control of all colonies. Italy receives smaller border regions and promised for future expansion to France. Germany annexes the region of Alsace-Lorraine, along with the country of Luxembourg and Malmedy. Furthermore, the Benelux states also reorganized. Britain, a war against the spread of fascism in Europe, is the last major resistance against the German conquerors. But what if Winston Churchill, instead of declaring, "We shall never surrender," had sought peace? This is what the Germans hoped for, and this timeline determines exactly as they wished. On September 15th, Britain makes peace. The losses are too high, the threat of a German invasion too real. The Luftwaffe's war has left London in ruins, and daily bombings have shattered the population's morale. The Royal Navy, once the heart of the empire, is worn down by constant attacks from German U-boats, in a desperate attempt to spare the British people further suffering. Churchill signs an armistice. The agreement with the Axis powers states that Britain will not have ceded any territories. A non-aggression pact is signed. Both countries agree to stay out of each other's spheres of influence. However, within Britain, this peace treaty is met with mixed feelings. Some see it as a grave mistake, given the Axis powers a free pass for future expansion plans. They fear that the peace might be short-lived, and that Axis powers will now be free to pursue its ambitions in Europe and beyond. Others are relieved that the war is finally over, and peace returns to the island. The cities begin to recover from devastation, and life slowly returns to normal. But the question remains, at what cost was this peace bought? As the Axis powers continue to expand influence in Europe and beyond, Britain finds itself trapped in an uncertain future, unsure whether the decision truly saved the country or forever changed it. The British surrender marks a turning point that would have severely altered history. The hope that Britain symbolized for the rest of the world would have been extinguished. With Britain out of the game, the balance of power in Europe would have shifted drastically. As Germany prepared for the invasion of the Soviet Union, a strengthened Italy pursued its own conquest plans in southeastern Europe. Benito Mussolini, having learned from his early wartime mistakes, modernized the Italian army and strengthened its coordination with German troops. With renewed confidence, Italy launches a series of offensives in the Balkans, where Greece and Yugoslavia quickly collapses and the Axis attacks in the fall of 1914 and spring of 1941. Under the combined pressure of Italian and German attacks, Greece capitulates within weeks. Italian troops, supported by the German Wehrmacht, rapidly advance southwards and occupy Athens, where the Greek army is hopelessly overrun. Yugoslavia, torn apart by internal conflicts and ethnic tensions, is an easy target for the Axis powers. Within a week, this country too is subjugated. Yugoslavia is divided between Germany, Hungary, Bulgaria and Italy, if Italy gains a larger territorial spoils. Greece suffers similar fate, being divided between Italy and Bulgaria. The entire Balkans fall under the control of the Axis powers. Italy, long considered a weaker partner in the alliance, finally rises as a true player on the European stage. Mussolini, who now controls strategically important areas in the Mediterranean, feels like an equal partner in Hitler's war. This success not only strengthens Italy's position within the Axis powers, but also boosts Mussolini's confidence in his imperial ambitions. The entire Mediterranean region now seems firmly in the hands of the Axis powers, and Italy dreams of a rebirth of the Roman Empire. 1941 marks the beginning of Germany's riskiest and deadliest decision, the invasion of the Soviet Union, which will go down in history as Operation Barbarossa. But in this alternate reality, America doesn't enter the war, at least not against the European powers. No arsenal of democracy, no landless supplies, no convoys full of weapons, ammunition, and food to support the exhausted Red Army. Without the industrial might and economic support of the USA, the Soviet Union stands alone against the full power of the Axis forces, along with Finland. Finland gladly joins the operation to claim the lost territories in the Winter War. The first month, the operation goes exactly as planned. The German troops push through the vast expanse of the Soviet Union, occupying cities like Kiev and Minsk. Initially, the soldiers are welcomed with joy, as people hope to finally be liberated from Soviet oppression. But they soon realize that the Nazi regime has much darker plans that far surpass the brutality of the Soviets. As winter approaches, however, none of the primary goals have been achieved, which are occupying the capital of Moscow and the city of Leningrad and Stalingrad. The winter of 1941-42 is brutal, but the Wehrmacht, better equipped and prepared than our reality, survives it. The severe cold, which in reality brought the German offensive to a halt, does slow down the advance, but this time the German lines do not collapse. Thanks to the unrestricted resources that are not tied up by military engagement in other fronts, the Axis powers can maintain their offensive. Moscow, the heart of the Soviet leadership, falls under pressure and relentless attacks. Stalin forced the opponent the capital. He relocates his government to the east, but the losses are immense. Without the crucial support of the USA, the Red Army can no longer repel the endless German offensive. In the vastness of the Russian steppes, the defense of the Soviet Union begins to crumble. The symbolically important city of Leningrad also falls under the pressure of the German and the Finns. The Soviet Union, once a mighty fortress, begins to erode. The advance of the German troops continues into the central regions of the country. However, in the Caucasus, Soviet defenses hold, as this is where the most important oil fields are located. Partisan movements in the occupied territories which fascist Axis advance can do little to stop the onslaught. As the Caucasus seems impossible to penetrate, new routes are thought. With Operation Gertrude, Hitler makes another strategic move. The Axis powers march on neutral Turkey, subsequently dividing it according to their plans. This allows them to penetrate deep into the Caucasus. This region, considered the heart of the Soviet resources, is the next target. German troops fight through the rough terrain to bring the vital oil fields of Baku under their control. As of the Caucasus proceeds faster and more brutally than expected. The Soviet defense lines, already exhausted by the year of fighting, collapse under combined pressure of German and Axis troops. With the fall of Baku and the surrounding oil fields, the Soviet Union loses its most crucial energy source. Without the black gold from the Caucasus, the Soviet war scene is doomed. Furthermore, during the operation, the symbolic city with the name of the Soviet leader Stalingrad fell. Now all three major cities are occupied, which is a big morale loss for all of the Soviet people. In 1943, the final catastrophe occurs. The fronts of the Red Army collapse completely. Moscow, already in German hands, and the remains of the Soviet leadership are scattered and isolated. News of Stalin's downfall spread like wildfire. He is overthrown by his own generals, and the country descends into chaos and civil war. The mighty Soviet Empire, once the greatest threat to Hitler's plans, is divided and transformed to a series of puppet states controlled by Germany. From the Baltic to the Black Sea, new dependent regimes arise, beholden to the Axis powers. Romania and Finland also received their promised portions, significantly expanding their territories. In the Far East, the Turkic people also seceded from the Soviet Union, creating their own united nation. But a Soviet Union still exists, at least on paper. But in reality, the territory that the Soviets control is not in their hands. It is ruled by local tribes or local people of the vast Siberian land. With the fall of the Soviet Union, the Axis powers now have almost all of Eurasia in their hands. From the industrial centers of Western Europe to the fertile plains of Eastern Europe to the oil fields of the Caucasus. Hitler and his allies stand at the height of their power, while the rest of the world watches in horror and unstoppable expansion of the Third Reich unfolds. After the triumph over the Soviet Union and the consolidation of their power across Eurasia, the German leadership now turns its attention to the West. A surprising move, the Germans allow France to return the political stage of Europe, but under strict conditions. France is restored as a state, but the country is only a shadow of its former self. Important regions in the west and the north are ceded to Germany, and also the island of Corsica is ceded to Italy. And the colonies are partially redistributed in favor of the Axis powers. Italy receives large parts of Algeria and Tunisia, and Germany finally realized their dream of Middle Africa. France is forced to settle for a weakened overseas empire. Although France formally regains its independence, the country remains de facto under German hegemony. The French government, now led by collaborators, works closely with the Germans. The freedom France has gained is merely a deceptive appearance, a compromise that turns the country into a vassal state within the growing empire of the Axis powers. While France enjoys this fragile peace, the Benelux countries are less fortunate. Belgium and the Netherlands lose their independence entirely. These countries are incorporated into a greater German Reich. Their governments dismantled and their economies entirely restricted to serve the needs for the German war machine. For these states, there is no return to self-determination, only a future under the iron fist of the Third Reich. In the north, Denmark is formally returned to independence, but the country remains under the strict control of a pro-German government. Same with Norway. The Quisling government is merely a tool of German interest, and the freedom promised to the Scandinavians is, in reality, an illusion. However, the islands of Greenland and Iceland are directly annexed by Germany to their strategic value. With the reordering of Europe nearly complete, only one challenge remains for the Axis powers: the center of the continent, Switzerland. The late summer of 1943, the last great campaign of the war begins. Switzerland, a symbol of neutrality, is overrun by German and Italian troops. Despite the difficult mountainous terrain and determined defense by Swiss militias, the small country cannot withstand the overwhelming force for too long. The Alps, once considered an impregnable fortress, are breached by the Wehrmacht with advanced warfare technology and overwhelming firepower. The Germans force Switzerland to its knees. The resistance of Switzerland is heroic, but ultimately unsuccessful. The operation of Switzerland marks the final chapter of German expansion in Europe. In the country, once considered of having freedom and peace, is now divided between Germany and Italy. The Axis powers have realized the vision of a new world order. Europe is firmly in the hands of Germany, stretching from the Atlantic coast deep into Russia. Italy has secured the Mediterranean, and Japan rules a vast empire, extending from China all the way to Indonesia. The USA, once considered the defender of democracy, has retired into isolation, a decision that has forever changed the world history. As the Axis powers consolidate their control and extend their dominion over the entire world, the dream of freedom and democracy remains only a distant memory for many. Countries that were once free now lie in ruins and are puppet states within a system of oppression. In this new world, there is no place for individual freedom, no space for dissent. People live in fear, their thoughts controlled, their movements monitored. Resistance, which flares up in some corners of the world, is quickly and brutally crushed. The ideal of a world where nations live self-determined and in peace has become a dream that fades into the shadows of this new order. What if history had unfolded this way? How would the world look today? Or could the Axis even hold this territory for a long time? All these questions can be answered. But we can think about that. And maybe we can make a part 2 about it. But that was my video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you want to see more alternate history scenarios. Let me know in the comments which scenarios interest you the most. Until next time. And remember, history shapes the future.